Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Amber and StarCharge. Amber offers a modern extended warranty for your Tesla's battery and more without the burden of long-term contracts or upfront payments. Check out the link in the description below to browse their plan options and get started with a free over-the-air diagnostic check. This video is also brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world, and they are also a provider of residential or commercial battery storage and microgrid solutions.
Welcome back to Out of Spec. We've had our Kia EV6 for 9 months now. We've had our Kia EV9 for 6 months now, and we put it through all of the usual paces. So this is all of our thoughts wrapped up in one place. Bottom line, it's truly fantastic. And I would say the bargain pick for 3-row electric SUVs. It's $20,000 or more cheaper than any of its actual competitors. Now, there are technically the Model Y and the Mercedes EQB 3-row SUVs, but those have like a 3rd-row option that's kind of a joke, more or less. It's absolutely unusable. But this thing is great. At the beginning of the year, I was invited to the Kia EV9 First Drive event out in California. Beautiful Napa Valley. They put you in the nicest premium trim Kia EV9 imaginable, fully loaded on a prescribed driving route, just showing you everything it's capable of. It's basically like a commercial, and that's the whole point of those events. But hot take, spending time with this base model is what really showed off the Kia EV9. This video was obviously made possible by Fort Collins Kia. They have a lease deal for you guys, the Colorado residents. $299 a month gets you a Kia EV9 Wind all-wheel drive. One of the middle trims that I mentioned that I think is one of the sweet spots, the best bargains. $299 a month includes taxes, $3,000 down, and it's for 24-month lease with 10,000 miles allowed per year. So definitely go check out Fort Collins Kia. Let them know we sent you. Now back to the rest of the video about this Kia. So in case you've missed any of our past coverage in the last 6 months, here is what we have been working with. The base model. So the base model is well equipped, but some people like myself might prefer to upgrade to a middle trim. But this is the base model first off, the light, long range, which means it is not the small battery, it is the larger battery, still rear wheel drive, only 150 kilowatt rear motor. That's about 200 horsepower, which is not much power for this giant thing of an SUV. But the light short range, the standard light one, does actually have a 7-seat configuration. Ours only has the 6-seat, which is still great, and a very, very usable 3rd row. Folded down right now, but captain's chairs, some people like that. Some people might like the bench seat. But this is, like I said, the base model, essentially. Price is tested right about 60 grand. Starts at 55 with the light one with the small battery. But what trim is best? Well, upgrading to the Wind or the Land gets you a lot of things if you care about it. This one has been fine, and that's been like the crazy takeaway that I'll keep mentioning in this video. It is genuinely a great 3-row SUV, as is in the base model. But the Wind will get you something like the 7-seat interior, dual sunroof, so some glass roof situation up there, all-wheel drive, so 2 motors, which means more power, more torque, definitely feels a bit sportier. This one is pretty slow. Fun fact, the Telluride actually has a faster 0 to 60 than this, but we're up at altitude, so I do think a drag race would be interesting, because that'd be, I think, pretty close. But anyways, the Wind also gets you better colors, a heated steering wheel, some of those things you might care about. Upgrading to the Land gives you more sound insulation with the rear glass, a premium Meridian sound system, ambient lighting on the inside, fancier headlights, the digital grille option, which is pretty sweet, vehicle to load capabilities, heated and cooled 2nd row seats. By the way, the base model still has heated and cooled front row, which is really fantastic. And the Wind or the Land also gets you a 360-degree camera, which I find really nice to have in a vehicle of this size. Beyond that, the GT line, the max spec, the one that I mentioned they had me on in the first drive out in California, That just gives you some design flings. Heads-up display, massaging driver's seat, but not even a massage passenger seat. Smart Park, standard. Boost as standard, but you can always upgrade the land, maybe the wind too, to get boost, which makes it even faster. So yeah, a lot of upper trims with better functions. That's nothing new in the automotive world. But the base model gives you heated and cooled front seats, the nicest headrests in the business, fantastic displays with really good Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that takes up this whole screen, a totally decent sound system, tri-zone climate control, the most range because it has the least amount of power and only rear-wheel drive, and a larger frunk because all the other models have all-wheel drive, which gives you a smaller front trunk because of the front motor underneath it. Plus it gets its usual great charging from the eGMP platforms with its power charge port. So you get a whole lot for your money with the base model, as I've been saying. The light is very impressive for what it is. So what did we do with this thing? Well, obviously all of our typical nerdy testing, like range test, efficiency testing, ADAS testing. We ran it through a hogback test to test the driver's assistance, which, by the way, standard on the base model. HDA2 is fantastic. We compared and contrasted it to so many different vehicles. We did a build quality analysis. It partook in our epic race to Vegas with all the 3-row SUVs. We tested its route planning capabilities against human planning capabilities, and humans are for sure better. Podcasts discussing even more things about it, OTA updates. Go watch all those videos if you want in-depth pieces of content on each subject matter, because we did so many hours effectively of covering what this Kia EV9 is all about. So now that we've done pretty much all of our testing on this, what are the actual takeaways? What are some of the good things? First of all, well, charging. It's rock solid. Again, this is an eGMP platform vehicle, and it has a 100-volt architecture. So in this case, it's actually about low 500 voltage nominal. What's interesting is the smaller battery EV9 actually has a higher peak charging speed and a little bit more power because the voltage of that battery is a bit higher. Just fun fact there in case you wanted to impress your EV9 friends with your knowledge. But charging holds deep and strong. Like this holds essentially just over 200 kilowatts deep into the charging session, almost 75%. And then it starts to taper off around 80. It's about 0 to full in 1 hour, which is pretty great, honestly. But it's really just a road tripping machine. The only reason Max and Dom maybe didn't do better in the race to Vegas is because they didn't just stay at a charger long enough. A couple times they unplugged maybe a bit too soon. Maybe they should have charger hopped a bit more. They tried to do it in only like 3 stops or something. So maybe that's why, or maybe they just aren't as competitive as the rest of us. But again, the range, very impressive because this is big battery, rear wheel drive, aero wheels. This is the range spec, which on EPA numbers gets about 304 miles. And my 70-mile-an-hour standardized range test did high 200s, about 280-ish, close to that, I think, if I recall correctly. But honestly, eco-friendly driving around town, you can easily get about 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is about 300 miles of range, maybe even more if you're nice and gentle. One nice thing of having a low power rear motor EV is that you're just not going to be burning that much juice, even in sport mode. And then the storage space, like we said, the front trunk, as you saw, very, very nice, big, usable. The rear, as per usual with an EV, it does have a power rear lift gate, by the way, so it's not sometimes when you get the base models, you can fit a lot of egg cartons, a little bit of underfloor space, but just a ton of space with the 3rd row folded down, even 3rd row folded up. Obviously that goes to about here, so still useful there. The 2nd rows can also be folded flat, which gives you a nice flat floor. The 7-seat configuration, it's actually a totally flat thing because that's a bench seat effectively right there. So that would be nice for car camping and hauling a bunch of stuff as well. But just very, very usable space. USB-C ports all around, little storage cubbies, very kid-friendly, easy to put strollers in here, very dog-friendly. All of my dog colleagues have loved it. Kyle and Alyssa and Colton have been hauling dogs like crazy in this thing. So yes, it's a fantastic SUV for a lot of reasons, both from the engineering perspective. I mean, the eGMP platform is good and proven, and just functionally, a lot of storage capacity. I mean, it's kind of a boxy, futuristic design, but the boxiness gives you a lot of functionality. So a lot of good things. Bravo, Kia. But what about the issues? A lot of times with long-term vehicle ownership experience, or in our case, borrow-ship experience, thanks again, Fort Collins Kia, people want to know, what issues do you come across? Well, we haven't really had any. As far as things that would require us to take it into the dealer, if something happens, we haven't had any of that. We haven't had any 12-volt issues. I know some people have had 12-volt battery issues. We haven't. Perhaps that's been fixed with an OTA update. Again, this does get OTA updates, which is fantastic. How every car should be, by the way. But otherwise, it hasn't had any actual real issues. A couple software glitches here and there. Actually, just yesterday, the volume wouldn't go above 5 for no reason. All I had to do was restart the car, turn it off, turn it back on again, and then it was fixed. I don't know why. But just minor software glitches like that, those are things I am happy to deal with. So fundamentally, no major issues that required us bringing it in for service. That's what a lot of people do care about. But what about issues I have with the car? I'm not here to complain, just there's certain things that I have to nitpick because they're just not as good as some of the competition, and that's my job, to compare and contrast all the different vehicles in the space. So, opening it up here, let me just walk you through some of the things. So, the software is mostly okay. In fact, a lot of people on the first drive event were very impressed with it. It presents itself very well. But after living with it, I started to realize there's just a few things that I don't necessarily love. This climate control screen is pretty cool. I do like having that, and I've been used to it at this point. But from the actual driver perspective, that's what my eyes are seeing. Steering wheel completely blocking the climate control screen. So I like having it here, but you just have to get used to the fact that you can't usually see it while you're driving. You have to like move around the steering wheel to see it. But then you have nice functionality. I mean, driver only, that's cool. 3 levels of automatic airflow, that's cool, literally speaking, because it's kind of getting warm out there right now. But the software itself is fine. Like again, you can get used to most software and it's pretty snappy, pretty responsive, but it's just a little clunky sometimes. Like if you want to go and find, where is my charge limit? Go into EV here, current, that's activating. Let's see, nope, not. Let's see if we, oh, there we tap that, and then we get to the place where we can set our charge limit on the DC charger. It does have a separate AC charging limit as well, which is nice, but where is that? Charging limit DC, oh yeah, there's the AC charging limit, okay. So it's just a bit convoluted. Of course, you can get used to anything. You can even set certain things as shortcuts, which is nice. The navigation also is pretty rough. And for a total, like, actual breakdown of that, I would recommend going to check out our Race to Vegas series, where Max and Dom had to follow this to get from Vegas to Fort Collins. And they also had to, they did a podcast with Francie, kind of also uncovering exactly how it worked. You have to tap there to get your state charge on arrival. That's kind of clunky, and they didn't even realize that on their way to Vegas. There's just a lot of things that are pretty rough around the edges with using the navigation. It's fine, but most people are probably just going to want to use CarPlay, which again uses this whole screen beautifully. It's a beautiful version of CarPlay, and Android Auto really properly uses, well, I don't know if Android Auto uses the whole screen, but CarPlay does. Most people use CarPlay, statistically speaking, anyways. But if you navigate with CarPlay, the CarPlay navigation, even if you go to a charger, is not telling the car that you're going to a charger. So you have to go in here and then manually activate battery preconditioning, which is never as efficient as the car properly doing it. So the software, I mean, does feel complete, but it's just a little clunky. And I don't know if there's necessarily the best UI, UX aficionados behind it, because most people that would get in this, including some coworkers, past coworkers, people I know that have bought eGMP vehicles, both Kia and Hyundai, found it to be fairly confusing at first, and it really took time to get the hang of it. It's just a little convoluted at times. Even here, these buttons here, nice capacitive buttons, nice to have these shortcuts, even the star one that you can program to a lot of different things. But often when I'm using the screen, naturally I'll rest my hand here to do something, and then that opens the map, for example. So that's just a bit funky. But then there's other nice things, like having these direct buttons here. Love this toggle, which is really, really lovely. Volume knob is pretty decent. And down here is the coolest thing. Tap that for only charging, tap that for charging and USB. I always use CarPlay wired because I don't like wireless CarPlay. And so that's a great way to enable, disable CarPlay on the fly. Beyond that, the app functionality, mostly Kyle was using the app, so I'm not sure all of its capabilities, but I've just heard from friends who also have Kia products that The app is okay, it does certain things, but just not nearly as good as the Tesla and Rivian apps that seem to be the benchmarks that most companies should try to mimic. Even Ford has been making great strides with their app lately, so I hope to see Kia and Hyundai improve theirs as well. So the software may not be the most user-friendly, and the app does fall behind some of the elite competition. But here's the thing, this car is just so good. We've shown it to so many friends, like I said, ICE and EV enthusiasts alike, and they all seem to have the same positive reception, the same conclusion that this thing rocks, and they're very intrigued. We do live in a world with crazy powerful EVs, such as the Plaid and the quad motor Rivian, the Lucid Air Sapphire. It's like normal to have stupid amounts of power and crazy fast straight line speed. But the reality is a lot of people don't necessarily need that, or they're not even looking for it. It's like a party trick. And it's cool. I still think it's so much fun to drive those cars. But so many people, myself included, get in this thing and they're like, you know what? It does work. I'm sitting here doing 75 on the highway, still have enough power to do sort of passing, and it's just not gonna blow your socks off with acceleration, but it's just good. I mean, most people, the first thing they say when they get in this thing is, oh my gosh, the headrest. It is genuinely the best headrest in the business. I don't know how they pulled it off, but it's just phenomenal. It's just bliss. I mean, Kia does have this slotted kind of above where the Telluride ends, which is why the base model does get some of the nicer things, I think, such as the cooled seats, which I have on full blast right now. And that's why I think, even though the slowest one, which is 0 to 60 like 6 point something seconds, that's still not far off of the Telluride, which is the ICE equivalent, more or less. The headrests are obviously comfortable, but so is the ride. And this is the base model without the premium like rear pneumatic suspension or whatever's going on with the GT line and stuff like that. This just rides nicely. It's smooth, it's relatively quiet. Even in the base model, you get the acoustic insulated front glass, which helps the front passengers. Sure, you might not have much back there. No heated or cooled rear seats, but your kids aren't the one buying the car anyways, right? The ADAS is fantastic. I'm using HDA2 right now. It's got automatic lane changes, which it's doing right now. Phenomenal capacitive wheel. It's just a pleasure to drive down the road. So there you have it, a culmination of thoughts on living with the Kia EV9 light long range for 6 months. Really, the entire out of spec team and many of our friends all got to really try this out, experience it, test it, and it's pretty telling when everyone comes to the same conclusion. This thing rocks. It just is so good. And we've tested the other 3-row SUVs alongside it. Of course, they also have good things in their own merits, but are also way more expensive. I mean, the Mercedes is twice the price of this one. Is it twice the car? I don't know. I think this is definitely the bargain of the bunch, and there's really no doubt about it. And again, a huge shout out to Fort Collins Kia for lending us this Kia EV9. It was fantastic of you guys. A lot of people really appreciated it. Hopefully a lot of you guys check out the deals they have up there at their dealership. And yeah, that's it. Kind of a shorter video for once. Kyle wasn't here to make it long as fuck.
Well, I hope you have the next 2 hours free because it's my turn to tell you about the Kia EV9. I'm just joking. Jordan, I'm sure, covered everything that you needed to know in the 6-month review, but I thought since I've been driving the EV9 a bunch as well, and I'm actually on my way to go return it right now, I thought I would share some final thoughts with you. And I think we'll start with just the value and the price point, regardless of technology features and charging performance and noise performance, which are all pretty good. Just the amount of space and family friendliness that you get in this vehicle for the money is pretty unbelievable. One of my favorite features has been to use the passenger talk function, where I swipe down here on the display and I go here to passenger talk and I turn it all the way up, and then people in the back, I'm a microphone, a megaphone in their ears. And I absolutely love that feature, and Alyssa can attest we use that one quite often.
Yes, he does.
So, you know, that's been really fun. And just the fact that this vehicle is under $60,000, or that would be a fully base one, but I guess this is like 60, the window sticker somewhere in there. It's around 60 grand. EV9, thumbs up. They're like, why is this guy waving at me? It's been an incredible car for the money. And from a reliability standpoint, this car has not given us a lick of trouble. Whoa! suspension tuning could use some work. It's actually pretty compliant. I don't really mind it too much. Some of the other colleagues, it bothered them more, some of this body porpoising on certain road surfaces. But we have not had a single problem with this car. And that's unusual because a lot of owners have reported 12-volt batteries going dead. My friend Nick, who took delivery, we've done a video with him, also at Fort Collins Kia, his 12-volt battery died at one point. So they really need to manage this high voltage charging the low voltage battery situation. And when the car is doing that and it's off, this light lights up orange. And it's been a fun meme, a joke, where every time I walk by the EV9 and that light is orange, it's good news. The EV9's big battery is charging the small battery. How amazing is that? And it's like, why would you ever need to know that? And then there'll be two people in the comments, and it's the same two people that are like, oh, but it lets the technician know who's working on the car that the high voltage systems are energized. And it's like, well, no other electric car does that. You can just turn all that crap off if you're working near high voltage lines. Anyway, that's my theory on it. That's a very silly thing to have, but most eGMP vehicles have that function. And then we get to maybe the downside of this car, which is I'm wide open throttle currently. A little bit of rotation, little traction control came in. Rear drive is certainly better than front drive, but I'm still floored. We've reached the speed limit and just a tiny bit more, but that's how long it took. It is not a fast vehicle, but I will say 201 horsepower in this configuration, moving a over 5,000 pound electric vehicle. Well, it's actually not bad. And I've never really wanted for more power. The thing is, when I drive the EV9, this is just a big, comfortable barge to get the family where you need to go. 200 horsepower is actually good. And at low speed, it gets up to like 30 miles an hour real quick, and then it kind of dies. The like 70 to 85 or 90 mile an hour pass on an uphill in the mountains, yeah, that struggles a little bit there. But overall, I think, you know, there's plenty of different versions of EV9 with over 500 horsepower. You can get an EV9 GT coming in the not too distant future. We know it's going to be spicy. I just think this car has got the right look, got the right image, got the right quality, the right engineering. Really, my only downside with it would be some of the, okay, it doesn't really feel that premium in here. It's still a Kia. It appears premium at first glance, and then some of these plastics come through, and you'll notice things like steering and ultimate ride quality, and those types of things are definitely suspension engineered for cost rather than, you know, you drive a R1S, for example, which still, especially the second generation, much more expensive vehicle when compared with this spec, is a much more sophisticated, well-built, high-quality vehicle. But if you have a family, this really is the best option. The only other downside I have is the software. I hate the software. This drives me insane. Whoops. And so does this shifter. It's snappy. It's never really given me a problem. It can do quite a bit. I like how I can program some hotkeys to like pull up my EV stuff. I like how I can manually precondition because the route planning sucks. You can set, you know, your charging limit on AC or DC separately. Like, there's really nice stuff in here. But overall, I think this whole infotainment stuff needs a workaround. For example, the climate control is just always blocked by my steering wheel, so I have to glance around to see that. And I can nitpick and go on, but I really think regardless of the pros or cons, if you're shopping, especially on a lease, for around $300 to $400 per month, taxes included, with a small upfront fee, this is your only option for a 3-row big boy electric SUV. And we've compared it to all of them, and the cheapest one, this one, is the best one for families, and it's been a great, truly great vehicle for us to have. And I will highly recommend the EV6 to really anyone, as long as they're somewhat tech savvy. I think you need to kind of know a little bit of, you know, like Android users, where not everything's as easy as an iPhone. That's what I equate to this vehicle. As long as you know what you're doing and you understand how to charge and plan your routes, then you'll be totally fine. I want to give Alyssa a moment just to talk a little bit. So, Alyssa, what's your impression?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really great car for the money, but it's not a car to desire, I guess. It's not something that I would ever be on oh my gosh, I want to trade in my current car to get this car, but I'm also very lucky to have the car. I'm in a different case for most people, but I think for the money and the value, it's definitely up there, and if not one of the best large SUV electric vehicles out there. So it just has so much space. It's great for the dogs. Got the vents. Ventilation is really amazing. Does not have dog mode though, and that's a huge downside. But
so I just want to comment on that really quick. We've used the utility mode quite a bit in this vehicle. The problem with utility mode is there's no real easy way to like lock the car and monitor that the systems are still running, and utility mode will just keep the climate on. So we can do that, but then you can't lock it. So you have to reach in and hit lock here, but then there's no way to really unlock it. So we've had some issues, and like they're halfway there with this utility mode. It's just like, give us a dog mode.
Yeah, this drives me nuts. This really does drive me nuts. I hate using that side of things. But I mean, other than that, it's a good car for the money. And that's pretty much it. It's just, for me, the GT lines are a lot nicer. It is a good looking car from the outside, but this base line is just,
everything's gray.
It's just dull.
No, at night there's no ambient lighting in
Yeah,
here.
there is. That's like a thing to mention too. But I mean, if you can find a good lease deal on it, which we know there's some around, and that's definitely a good way to go if you have multiple kids or multiple dogs and you're in the market. It's either this or pretty much an R1S, or you're in BMW iX territory.
But then only 2 rows.
And then that's, yeah. But for the space and the practicality, it's great. It charges decently, and
yeah. We're actually going to juice it up. Well, I got to use my EV9 free charging plan.
wow.
Yeah, I'm going to be one of those guys.
You are one of those guys.
Well, it's just, I promised them I'd return it fairly charged, and we're at 39% and still pretty far away. So, I think at the end of the day, huge shout out to Fort Collins Kia for letting us borrow this. I've been impressed with some of the over-the-air updates that we've received with the vehicle. It has improved since we've gotten it. Nothing to the point of Tesla or beyond. I think Kia's low point is still in software. Certainly, if you're a car enthusiast wanting a performance vehicle and an off-roader and a huge, wide capability range, you go R1S over this without question. Yeah. But if you're just looking for an on-road...
For the minivan of EVs, this is it.
Yeah, I would totally agree, Alyssa. This is the on-road family truckster that is the best option until the maybe Lucid Gravity, Escalade IQ, Future Suburban.
But those are astronomically expensive.
Yeah, those will all be much more expensive. So I really think this is going to be the jam. That lease deal that I quoted that we put in this video is for a nicer spec than this car. This car will be available for sale at Fort Collins Kia. I've kept the battery at 30 to 40% the entire time. We've charged it up when we needed to use it. The car's in perfect shape. We're actually going to cut to a clip now of us cleaning it up before we return. And is there a space available? I think yes. Just one space available. You can show the viewers here, Alyssa. This is where we're pulling into to charge it up. And that has been our ownership experience with the Kia EV9. Let's go drop it off the dealer and we'll go end the video. Well, in no time at all, we've just reached just about 80% state of charge. 79% just tapered to 136 kilowatts. Man, what a machine. That's been one of the best parts about this EV9 is the charging performance has been so consistent, rock solid. It's got a huge buffer below zero. We've really done a lot of DC charging on this car and it doesn't care. And something I've noticed too is I've been in the forums of Ioniq 5 and EV6 owners. Some of them have hundreds of thousands of kilometers now. Even my buddy Zach has 70,000 miles on his, who does a ton of DC charging, almost 90% DC charging, and they're fine. I don't know what magic they put in this other than maybe a lot of cobalt, but which is not really good, but they seem to be holding up to the abuse really, really well. So anyway, we've reached 80%, 16 minutes later. Love to see it. Time to roll. Don't need to charge it up much more than that because I'm sure it's going to sit on the dealer lot for a little while. We got some driving to do, so we'll get there, let's say around 50 or 60%, and then it'll just sit until hopefully one of you guys buy it, because this, oh my gosh, if they could actually lease this one, this could be the craziest lease on an EV9. And if it is that crazy, I might buy it because I really do like this car that much. It's been a great team hauler. Max was driving it for a while. Max actually went to law school. Some of you are like, where did Max go? Max went to law school. He'll be around. You'll see him for some challenges, and he's still part of the family, but he's going to school. Good luck to Max. We'll miss him. And of course, Jordan and Francie and everyone else, Colton, the list goes on. We're all rocking. Still great. But yeah, oh boy, EV9, let's go bring it home. I'm gonna miss this thing. Home to Fort Collins Kia. Off we go. Colton's hitting the mats with the good old simple green. Good thing they loaned us those all-weather mats. We put them to use. We've had this for 6 months and we're still finding shipping plastic.
Nice.
Wow.
It's on every single one.
Dude, this whole car, every surface came covered. Scrub-a-dub-dub. We're cleaning some rubber floor mats. I'm working on the glass. Alyssa's hitting it with the vacuum everywhere. It's the good old detail. Oh, more plastic! What the heck? Wow! Woohoo! Well, there you go, guys. It's been 6 months of really a great long-term ownership experience, if you will, a long-term review, I really should say. And a huge thank you to Fort Collins Kia for loaning us this car. Like I said, this one will be available, and just talk to the guys here. They're gonna blow it out. So if you want one pretty cheap, this might be a great option. So definitely call up Fort Collins Kia. Their description, the info will be in the description below. In the next video, you're gonna see what we're exchanging this for, which I'm really looking forward to sharing with you as well. Will be a spicy meatball. So we drop one off and we're about to go take delivery of our next Kia for the next 6 months to share with you. So stay tuned. And again, huge shout out to Fort Collins Kia. We'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.
Show it off to our friends, get their input just to see what they all think. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.